These are the 55,800 residents of Spring Hill, Tennessee, who discovered that when your entire city gets built around a single General Motors factory, every production pause becomes a community crisis. Spring Hill represents one of America's most dramatic urban transformations. Back in 1985, this quiet farming community had just 1,275 residents scattered across rolling horse pastures 30 miles south of Nashville in Middle Tennessee. Today, it is home to General Motors' largest manufacturing facility in North America, an 11 million square foot complex that employs more than 5,000 workers and can build cars from start to finish in 30 hours. But Spring Hill's remarkable growth story also reveals the vulnerability that comes with betting everything on manufacturing. The numbers tell an extraordinary tale of boom and risk. From 2000 to 2022, Spring Hill's population exploded by 549%, making it one of Tennessee's fastest-growing cities alongside the broader Middle Tennessee automotive corridor that includes Nissan's massive Smyrna plant 60 miles north. The 2025 projected population stands at 61,094. Yet beneath these impressive statistics lies a more troubling reality about what happens when production lines go silent and workers head home early. Right now, Spring Hill faces its latest test. In January 2026, General Motors will temporarily pause battery cell production at its Ultium Cells plant, laying off 700 workers. The main assembly plant will drop to single-shift operations from January through May, affecting thousands more. This comes as the Inflation Reduction Act's electric vehicle incentives face policy uncertainty under changing federal administrations. It is not the first time Spring Hill has weathered production shutdowns, and it will not be the last. But each pause forces the same uncomfortable question: what does it mean to be a modern manufacturing city when manufacturing itself has become so unpredictable? Spring Hill's story begins with ambition and horse manure. In 1985, General Motors purchased a 2,100-acre horse farm that was once home to Haynes Peacock, a world grand champion walking horse. The company paid premium prices for land that had been in agricultural use for over a century, including the historic Ripavilla plantation, built between 1851 and 1855 by Nathaniel and Susan McKissack Cheers. The plantation's antebellum history would later underscore the profound economic transformation about to unfold in this corner of Middle Tennessee. The selection process had been intense. GM's Saturn division evaluated over 1,000 sites across 36 states in what became a 7-month industrial recruiting contest. States offered increasingly desperate incentives. New York dangled 100 megawatts of free electricity for 20 years. Minnesota pledged $1.03 billion in tax concessions. Kentucky legislated a $306 million educational aid package. But GM chose Spring Hill for reasons that had less to do with incentives and more to do with geography, workforce potential, and the blank slate that rural Tennessee represented. On July 30th, 1985, Governor Lamar Alexander announced GM's decision. Mayor George Jones learned his sleepy community would soon host the world's most expensive manufacturing plant. The $3.05 billion investment would transform not just Spring Hill, but the entire concept of automotive manufacturing in America. Construction began in May 1986, with excavation of 2,400 acres for what would become a 4.3 million square foot factory. The state-built Saturn Parkway, a $29.03 million controlled access highway connecting the plant directly to Interstate 65. Everything was designed for speed, efficiency, and scale. But General Motors also discovered something unexpected during construction. While preparing the site, workers unearthed an unmarked slave graveyard, a sobering reminder of the land's deeper history. General Motors paid to relocate the remains to a nearby burial site, but the discovery underscored how modern manufacturing was literally being built on top of older American stories about labor, exploitation, and economic transformation. The first Saturn rolled off the line on July 31st, 1990, marking the beginning of Spring Hill's golden age. Saturn wasn't just another car brand, it represented General Motors' attempt to reinvent American manufacturing. using Japanese-inspired techniques and innovative labor relations. The partnership with the United Auto Workers created a unique contract that emphasized cooperation over confrontation, quality over quantity. The Union Hall Parkway was later named after UAW leader Stephen P. Yokich, honoring his role in establishing these revolutionary labor partnerships. For a while, it worked spectacularly. By 1991, Saturn ranked first in sales per outlet, the first time in 15 years that a domestic brand held that honor. In 1994, Saturn turned its first profit. By 1995, the plant had produced 1 million vehicles. Spring Hill's population began its steady climb, rising from fewer than 1,000 residents in 1980 to over 8,000 by 2000. But the Saturn experiment also revealed tensions that would plague Spring Hill for decades. Many locals resented that outsiders held the majority of plant jobs. Jim Miller, a Spring Hill resident, said the governor kept talking about at least 3,000 jobs, but once we read the agreement, we knew we could not get any jobs out of the project. The promise of local employment often conflicted with the reality of specialized manufacturing work that required skills the existing population did not possess. The first major shock came in 2004, when General Motors dissolved Saturn's unique labor contract, integrating Saturn operations with the broader General Motors structure. The writing was on the wall, but Spring Hill residents were not prepared for what followed. In 2007, General Motors idled the entire plant for retooling, throwing the community into economic uncertainty. In 2008, the plant reopened to build the Chevrolet Traverse, but this proved temporary. In late 2009, General Motors discontinued the Saturn brand entirely and moved Traverse production to Lansing, Michigan. Vehicle assembly at Spring Hill went completely dark. Nearly 2,500 auto workers faced layoffs, buyouts, and early retirement. The impact on Spring Hill was devastating. Local businesses that had thrived serving plant workers suddenly faced empty parking lots and canceled orders. The Well Outreach Food Pantry, which normally served a few hundred families, saw demand spike dramatically. Community leaders said it would be very hard on the Well Outreach Food Pantry. We are already serving 1,300 families a month and are at capacity. Last time it added an additional 200 plus families a month. For 2 years, Spring Hill's economic engine sat silent. The massive plant loomed over the community like a monument to broken promises. Some residents wondered if the boom was permanently over, if Spring Hill would return to being a sleepy farming community with the world's most expensive ghost factory. But General Motors wasn't finished with Spring Hill. In September 2011, the company announced plans to reopen the plant as an ultra-flexible facility capable of building multiple vehicle types on the same assembly line. This flexibility would become Spring Hill's defining characteristic and its insurance policy against future shutdowns. When production resumed, Spring Hill began building the GMC Acadia and later added the Cadillac XT5 and XT6. The plant's advanced flexible manufacturing system could switch between different vehicles with minimal downtime. The facility even produced the Honda Acura ZDX through 2025 as part of a partnership between General Motors and Honda that demonstrated the plant's unprecedented manufacturing flexibility. By 2018, demand was strong enough that General Motors added a third shift, bringing employment back to pre-shutdown levels. Population growth resumed with a vengeance. From 2010 to 2020, Spring Hill's population jumped from 29,036 to 50,005, a 72% increase that made it Tennessee's fastest-growing city during the decade. New subdivisions sprouted across former farmland. Retail and service businesses multiplied to serve the expanding workforce. Spring Hill seemed to have learned the lessons of diversification and resilience. But the biggest transformation was yet to come. In October 2020, General Motors announced plans to invest nearly $2 billion to convert Spring Hill into an electric vehicle production hub. The plant would build the Cadillac Lyrique, General Motors' luxury electric SUV, marking the company's serious commitment to electrification. This wasn't just another product changeover, it represented Spring Hill's entrance into what many considered the future of automotive manufacturing. The announcement was followed in April 2021 by even bigger news. General Motors and LG Energy Solution would build a $2.3 billion battery plant through their joint venture, Ultium Cells. The facility would employ thousands more workers and produce up to 50 gigawatt-hours of lithium-ion battery cells annually. In December 2022, Ultium announced an additional $275 million investment to expand capacity. Spring Hill was positioning itself at the center of America's electric vehicle revolution. The plant would build both gas-powered and electric vehicles on the same assembly line, the ultimate expression of manufacturing flexibility. Nearly 4,000 employees would produce 4 Cadillac vehicles, the gas-powered XT5 and XT6, alongside the electric Lyriq and Vistiq. The economic impact was staggering. According to the Center for Automotive Research, General Motors employment in Tennessee produces a 6.8 employment multiplier, meaning there are 5.8 other jobs in the Tennessee economy for every direct General Motors job. The Spring Hill facility alone supports an estimated 12,000 additional jobs in the supply chain and supporting industries, with an annual economic impact of $2.1 billion to Middle Tennessee. But Spring Hill's bet on electric vehicles came with new vulnerabilities that residents are discovering today. The electric vehicle transition has not unfolded as predicted. Sales of new electric vehicles in the United States, especially expensive models like those built in Spring Hill, slowed dramatically throughout 2024. Western governments pushed aggressively for electrification through legislation like the Inflation Reduction Act, and automakers responded by investing billions in electric vehicle production. But consumer demand proved more resistant to change than anyone anticipated. General Motors has already written off $6 billion in its struggling electric vehicle business. The company faces what CEO Mary Barra calls policy whiplash, as different presidential administrations pursue dramatically different approaches to environmental and economic policy. President Trump reduced Inflation Reduction Act electric vehicle incentives and eased fuel efficiency penalties, making gas-powered vehicles more attractive to buyers and undermining the business case for electric vehicle production. The result is Spring Hill's latest production pause. Starting in January 2026, Ultium Cells will temporarily halt battery production, laying off 700 workers. The shutdown is expected to last through mid-2026, affecting not just Ultium employees but workers throughout the supply chain. Manufacturing supplier Tenneco has already filed notice that 82 workers will be permanently laid off starting December 2024. The main Spring Hill assembly plant will also reduce operations, running only first shift from January through May 2026. General Motors will halt production of the Cadillac Lyriq and Vistiq during this period, focusing resources on gas-powered vehicles that are selling more reliably. Michael Herron, chairman of United Auto Workers Local 1853, captured the ripple effects. He said that any time there is a ceasing of operations and retooling of this magnitude, there is going to be an impact to the supplier community. Nearly 900 employees from 8 auto parts suppliers face layoffs as a result of the Spring Hill production changes. For Spring Hill residents, this latest pause feels both familiar and different. The community has weathered plant shutdowns before, but never during such rapid population growth. The city that once had fewer than 30,000 residents in 2010 now houses over 55,000 people, many of whom moved to Spring Hill specifically for manufacturing jobs that are now temporarily disappearing. Yet Spring Hill's leaders express cautious optimism about the latest challenges. The plant's flexibility remains its greatest asset. Anton Busutil, executive director of the Spring Hill plant, explains the strategy as demand shifts. He says that as demand for electric vehicles goes up, they can scale, and as demand for internal combustion vehicles goes up, they can also scale. General Motors has already announced that Spring Hill will begin manufacturing the Chevrolet Blazer starting in 2027, shifting production from Mexico partly due to tariff pressures. The Detroit Big Three automakers collectively paid about $6.5 billion in tariffs during 2025, making domestic production more attractive even as it creates new scheduling challenges. Ultium Cells is also pivoting toward energy storage systems, announcing a $70 million investment to retrofit the Spring Hill plant to manufacture LFP batteries for stationary storage applications. Bob Lee, president of LG Energy Solution, sees this as strategic diversification. He says Spring Hill is becoming a key hub in their North American energy storage system manufacturing footprint, which has helped offset slower than expected electric vehicle demand. The union perspective adds another layer to Spring Hill's story. UAW Local 1853. President John Rutherford emphasizes that Southern workers have always had the skill, the pride, and the fight, and that companies needed to end their race to the bottom. The union secured a major victory in late 2024, when nearly 1,000 Ultium workers overwhelmingly ratified their first local agreement, bringing battery production under the same labor protections as vehicle assembly. But union relations have not always been smooth. In 2019, Local 1853 officials called police on workers who were campaigning against a contract deal, highlighting ongoing tensions between union leadership and rank-and-file members. The 2023 UAW strike that included Spring Hill reflected broader struggles over wages, benefits, and job security in an industry undergoing rapid technological change. Spring Hill's story illuminates the challenges facing manufacturing communities across America. The city represents both the promise and the peril of building local economies around large-scale industrial production. When times are good, the benefits are extraordinary. High-paying jobs, population growth, community investment, and regional economic multiplier effects that support thousands of additional workers. But manufacturing's boom and bust cycles create unique vulnerabilities. Unlike service economies that tend towards steady incremental change, manufacturing communities can experience dramatic swings between prosperity and uncertainty. Product transitions, market shifts, trade policies, and technological changes can transform employment levels overnight. Spring Hill's evolution from agricultural community to Saturn headquarters to flexible manufacturing hub to electric vehicle center demonstrates remarkable adaptability. The city's leadership has learned to navigate plant closures, product changes, and economic uncertainty while maintaining population growth and community development. Yet fundamental questions remain about sustainability and control. Spring Hill's economy still depends heavily on decisions made in Detroit boardrooms and global market forces beyond local influence. That dependence creates ongoing vulnerability to external shocks. The current production pause offers Spring Hill another opportunity to demonstrate resilience. Community leaders point to the plant's enhanced flexibility, the diversity of current and planned products, and the broader automotive supply chain that has developed around the General Motors facility. The Ultium investment, despite current challenges, represents a long-term commitment to Spring Hill's role in electric vehicle production. Spring Hill has also benefited from its proximity to Nashville's booming economy, providing alternative employment opportunities and economic diversification that did not exist during earlier plant shutdowns. The city's location along Interstate 65 makes it attractive for logistics and distribution operations that are not directly tied to automotive manufacturing. As Spring Hill approaches 2026 and the temporary production pause, residents face familiar uncertainty with new complexities. The city that transformed from 1,275 people in 1985 to nearly 56,000 today has proven its ability to adapt and grow. But each production pause serves as a reminder that manufacturing communities must constantly balance the benefits of industrial employment against the risks of economic dependence. The lessons from Spring Hill extend far beyond Tennessee. Across the American South and Midwest, communities have built their futures around large manufacturing facilities, from auto plants to aerospace factories to chemical complexes. These communities share Spring Hill's experience of rapid growth, high-paying jobs, and periodic uncertainty when global economic forces collide with local employment realities. Spring Hill's next chapter will be written over the coming months as the community navigates another production pause, prepares for resumed battery manufacturing, and positions itself for whatever comes next in the rapidly evolving automotive industry. The city that learned to build cars in 30 hours continues learning how to build resilient communities over decades of change. In many ways, Spring Hill represents the best and most challenging aspects of modern American manufacturing. It is a place where global industrial investment can transform rural communities almost overnight, creating prosperity and opportunity that would not otherwise exist. But it is also a place where that prosperity remains perpetually at risk, subject to market forces, policy changes, and corporate decisions that local residents can influence but never fully control. As the production lines prepare to slow down once again, Spring Hill faces the eternal question of manufacturing communities. How do you build lasting prosperity on the foundation of an industry that never stops changing? The answer, as Spring Hill has learned repeatedly, lies in flexibility, community resilience, and the willingness to adapt when the next transformation arrives.